On YouTube, we have another episode of whatever it is that I'm doing on YouTube. Literally nothing. I did record a video. I don't have been out here for like a whole month now, basically. I think my last video was during the conference finals. It wasn't even the finals. Um, yeah, I recorded one about free agency that I did want to, still get into. I'll kind of re-record it because it got deleted or I just wasn't paying attention. I don't know. The thing is, I'm back. So I have this free agency tracker from this. And before I even start, let me just get into something real quick. The NBA has had a lot of stuff go on since the last time I recorded. So, as we all know, the Denver Nuggets, shout out to them, the 2023 NBA champions, deservedly so. I mean, I kind of knew they were going to win it. That's kind of why I didn't really make videos, why I stopped somewhat caring. I mean, I was also in the transition of finding a new job, a lot of stuff. It doesn't really matter though, because I have like one viewer and it's myself. So yeah, but I'm back now, kind of. So yeah, so shout out to Denver Nuggets for winning the chip. Nikola Jokic is clearly the best player in the NBA. Um, I don't want to say by a lot because Embiid is still there, Giannis is still there, Luca. I personally love Luca, and I still believe that he is a top five player today. So let's see what happens this coming season. But I did decide also that I'm going to do a 30 teams this month, like kind of just talk about them. I'm just waiting on, to see what happens with Damian Lillard and James Harden, because as we all know, Damian Lillard requested a trade, and James Harden decided to also request a trade. But that's still a little up in the air there. We'll see what happens with both those guys. The draft also happened. I wanted to do a draft, like a mock draft, but while that was happening, I was in my new role uh, out in Jersey. So, you know, been super busy, but I want to be back. I want to do this consistently. I want to somewhat build a following. Maybe do it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it out. But for now, I want to get into NBA free agency, what it means, what it does, and what's been happening around the league. And in my last video, I did go basically through everything up to that point, but obviously I couldn't record it, so I'm just gonna go off of what stuff I want to get into, which in this case would be the first one, which was a little bit before free agency, where Nas Reed re-signed with Minnesota. Minnesota's paying three of their guys who are big men a lot of money, like almost like what was it, like 100 million something dollars, I believe, and then Anthony Edwards, I just saw today, he got the bag. He got a super max extension, or like a super or a max extension for a rookie. It's the rookie max extension, whatever that's called. And I believe that it is incentivized. So like if he does get all NBA, I believe he'll get even more money, or that will become fully guaranteed. I don't know. Thing is that he 100% deserves it. And I'm happy Nas Reed is getting paid. I just wish he would have waited for free agency to open up. But then again, as you can see, this free agency, the market isn't really all that big. But I definitely think he could have helped out another contender or even, been a starting caliber center on another team. But he goes back to Minnesota to be a backup, which I also understand. Actually, I don't understand it, but I understand it from Minnesota's perspective. You don't want to lose him. But also, if I'm Minnesota, I want to trade either Gobert or Towns, and it looks like Towns is more likely to be traded. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, Nas Reed out there in Minnesota. The Bulls giving Nikola Vucevic a deal. I mean, I believe it is really to trade him inevitably. If not now, then definitely a year into his contract, maybe even this trade deadline. I don't know. It is only $20 million a year, which is I wouldn't want to say an underpay. If anything, it's exactly what I believe he deserved. But I also the NBA seems like it's going up, but then again, that new tax bill, I don't know, it's a whole big thing. Um, so yeah, Vucevic re-signed. Harrison Barnes surprised me a little bit. I felt like the Kings were gonna try to go after like another power forward like Draymond Green, but I think we all kind of knew he was gonna go back to the Warriors. So bringing back Harrison Barnes for cheap, I believe it was what is it, 3 year, $54 million contract, not bad. And then Golden State, of course, bringing back Draymond. How is that gonna work with Chris Paul being there? Two guys that are very like they're so smart in the game of basketball, especially Draymond and his team. He's smart with the way that his team works. And Chris Paul is just smart overall. He's a floor general. He has been his whole career. But how is that going to work, with butting heads? Like they clash. They might be able to clash a lot. I don't know. Whatever it is that they're deciding to do. I mean, I understand the Chris Paul trade. I also didn't even get into that. You know, Kristaps also got traded, but Jordan Poole getting traded to Washington. I mean, I, I don't know. I guess I get it for the veteran standpoint. You didn't want too many young guys, and Chris Paul is known to help out young guys as well. He can definitely help out Kaminga and Moody. I bet they wish he would have kept Wiseman, so that Chris Paul could have been a part of that. But you know, we'll see what's up. And then Trey Lyles also re-signing with the Kings. Only reason why I brought that up is because I wanted Trey Lyles on the Nets, but he didn't come, obviously. Levert inks up with the Cavs. The Cavs had a great offseason, I would say. I mean, they did trade away Chetty Osman and Lamar Stevens. I believe they got rerouted to San Antonio, was it? Because of the Patty Mills trade that sent Patty to originally Memphis to then go to Oklahoma, and then he went somewhere else. I don't know where Patty Mills is, but but yeah, they ended up getting Max Strus in a sign and trade with that involved Lamar Stevens and Chetty Osman. They also picked up, I think we'll get into it later, Georges Niang. I think the Cavs filled that void offensively. I mean, Max Strus was dribbling a lot with Miami. He doesn't have to now that he has two backcourt guards that actually dribble and that pass to the open man. And those two guys being, solid knockdown shooters, looks like a great pickup for the Cavs. I don't know if you can see them. Can I get right there for the Cavs? Kyle Kuzma re-signing with the Wizards was a little baffling to me because of the amount of money he got. Let's see what it was. It's his 4-year, $102 million contract. It's like damn near 25 million plus per year, which I get. It's tradable, so get as much out of him as you didn't get with Bradley Beal and Kristaps and those trades that you made. Oh yeah, Bradley Beal's on the Suns. Crazy. Which Suns quietly great offseason, but we'll get into it. Kobe White re-signing with the Bulls, not really that important. Taurean Prince, Cam Reddish, Gabe Vincent, who's the other? Jackson Hayes. 4 relatively young dudes. I mean, I think Gabe Vincent is like 27, Taurean is like 29, but other two, Cam Reddish and Jackson Hayes taking a flyer on those two guys. I like what the Lakers have done. I don't think they've won free agency. I think people are over exaggerating it. And then Gabe Vincent is a product of Miami. During the regular season, he wasn't really that good. I mean, I don't want to say he wasn't that good, but he wasn't great. I mean, he really picked up in the playoffs, which is what's most important, right? But $11 million. It's less than what your mid-level exception was. So from that perspective, that's great. But you did the same thing with Kendrick Nunn. Another player that was a product of Miami goes to LA and doesn't really do much, right? I mean, you did trade him away for Hachimura, who you brought back as well. You brought back Reeves. You brought back D'Lo. I mean, the only guys that left are Malik Beasley, who wasn't getting any minutes. He was a very spotty shooter. Lonnie Walker, who also wasn't getting any minutes, won you one playoff game, and is out in Brooklyn now, which I love. And who's the third guy that you guys lost? Mo Bamba. I mean, he wasn't doing much for you guys anyway. So hopefully the Nets pick him up, but we'll see. But yeah, I like what the Lakers did. The Suns are bringing back Okogie. I think we all kind of saw that. DeAndre Jordan going back to the Nuggets. Locker room presence. Keita Bates-Diop signing with the Suns is super low-key. He's valuable, a wing that not only plays defense, but he hustles on defense and hustles on offense, which is, I don't think a lot of people understand what that means, but hustling on offense is what Bruce Brown does. It's what LeVert did back in Brooklyn. Like, you know your spot. It's what Hollis Jefferson did with Brooklyn. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, players that have that same, like, mentality on offense, but I'm trying to think. Who's, like, a good cutter? I think Bruce Brown right now is, like, the best example I can give. I'm trying to think of, like, an old school guy, like a Bruce Bowen type player. He was more of a 3-and-D wing, but whatever. Keita Bates-Diop, I love that sign with the Suns. Damian Lee also going back to Phoenix. They did lose on Jacques Landale, but they got back, or Jacques Landale, sorry, and they got back Drew Eubanks, who I, personally love. I think he's going to be a great backup big, or maybe even a starter if they do inevitably move DeAndre in, which it doesn't look like they're going to do. And they signed Yuta Watanabe. It broke my heart, but I also understood it. Utah, it's KD's boy, man. You want to go there. And they also got Eric Gordon for really, really cheap. I believe there was somebody else they got, but I'm blanking on the name. But The Eric Gordon pickup is a great pickup. The KDB's job and even the Eubanks and Watanabe, like these guys are great rotation players. I mean, they have a 10-man rotation right now, and then they got Ish Wainwright and who's the other guy that they have? I forget. But they have the solid 10-man rotation and guys that, if guys go down, next man up type vibes, right? And Frank Vogel, he's a good coach. I do believe he's a good coach. So, Phoenix looking like the team to beat right now. I mean, obviously it is Denver, but Denver did lose a key piece who I'm going to get into right now. But, Phoenix looking solid. And speaking of that player that left Denver, Bruce Brown signing with the Pacers, such a great pickup for Indiana. People are calling him overpaid. I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan, so I saw the way that he played in Brooklyn. He was a hustler with us, but he shot 40% from the corner from the three for us, especially in that playoff series against Boston. He was the only reliable scorer on that team. I mean, it's crazy to say with a team with Kevin Durant and Kyrie, the guy that you trusted the most was Bruce Brown. And then out there in Denver, the guy you trusted the most off your bench was Bruce Brown. Like you spotty minutes for these other guys, but Bruce Brown was the most constant player on Denver besides, their starting five, right? So I love it. I mean, it sucks that Denver is losing, a player of this caliber, but you got to get paid. I mean, it is a 2-year, $45 million contract, so that's what, 22 and a half a year. Second year is a team option. I don't see why Indiana wouldn't pick it up unless they want to, get out of that money and then re-sign him for longer but cheaper. Who knows? But that's a great pickup for Indiana. They also traded for Obi Toppin for 2 second-round picks. They traded Chris Duarte, which I understood. I mean, moving him out of the way so that you can get a player like Bruce Brown to either come off your bench or start, or whatever the case may be. But also bringing in Obi Toppin, having Miles Turner still there, defending the paint. I really like what Indiana's doing. They're a sleeper team for me to not only make the play-in, but really make the playoffs. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton is that guy. He also got paid max money with also the same thing, incentives alongside if he makes an All-NBA team. I believe that contract becomes fully guaranteed, or probably even a little bit more additional money than what he's already making. So, great pickup for Indiana. Move on here. Jeremy Grant re-signing with the Blazers. 5-year, $160 million contract. That's insane. It's over 30. It's $32 million a season. What were they thinking? Honestly, like whether I mean, I don't want to. Joe Cronin, I think he knew Damian Lillard was going to leave. So why get yourself in a deep hole with Jeremy Grant? He doesn't want to be a part of a rebuilding team. Yeah, I got to get your bag, but as tradable as it might seem, you're getting a player that's never made an All-Star game. Is probably going to never make an All-Star game. The player that you have right now, Jeremy Grant, is the player you're going to get for the rest of his career. Right? Like, where else can he get better at? He's solid defensively. He's solid offensively. Uh, he can grab a lob or two. He can shoot the three on a somewhat efficient clip. He plays versatile defense. Can guard your 4, your 5, your 3, your 2, potentially your 1. He does a lot of good things or important things well, but he doesn't do them great. He's not great at one specific thing. And I think a $30 million player should be great at least one thing, and he's not that. So it makes sense why Damian Lillard would want to go. It just doesn't make sense why he would say it after they gave him the bag. But I guess he wanted his boy to get paid, so whatever. Troy Brown signing with the Timberwolves, don't really care about that. Kristaps Porzingis gets re-signed the contract extension with Boston, who also picked up Delano Banton, a 6'9" point guard who, look, in Toronto was going through a lot of stuff, right, with Nick Nurse being their coach, but I believe he's this really, really sneaky pickup, and he's going to do great for Boston. And I hate that I say that because I despise Boston with a passion, but imagine a lineup of Delano Banton, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kristaps, or, if you want to be like me, who likes putting the shorter guys at the power forward spot and Robert Williams, and then Kristaps Porzingis at your 5, or whatever, swap them to, I don't care. That lineup is great defensively. I mean, not only does Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, don't they have the physicalities to do it, they actually play defense with their heart, right? Then Robert Williams in the paint, Kristaps Porzingis in the paint, bro. And then putting Delano Banton on whatever. Even if you want to move JT to the 4 and you put Derek White in, I mean, even if you want to put Brogdon in, you have such a defensive unit there. I mean, I hate they're in Boston, but they're going to be a fun team to watch. This one here, Reggie Jackson with the Nuggets surprised me. I guess they want more bodies because they did lose two guys in Jeff Green and Bruce Brown. But Reggie Jackson got no minutes in the playoffs. I mean, if you think about it, what minutes did he really get? Especially in the finals, he got zero. I don't know, but he got paid 2 year, $10.25 million contract. Nick Alexander Walker resigns with the Wolves. I understand. Javon Carter leaving Milwaukee to go sign with the Bulls. 3 year, $20 million contract. I personally love it. He's younger than Pat Bev, who they did lose to Philly. But he can shoot the three, but he can shoot the three better. Plays low key better defense than Patrick Beverley does, and passes the ball better than Patrick Beverley does. I mean, you got a solid pickup there, and he's a good spot filler for Lonzo Ball. I mean, we don't know what's going to go on with him. I mean, I believe he's missing this next upcoming season. Hopefully, he gets back. It doesn't look too well for him and his future in the NBA, but we're all hoping that everything works out. Chimezie Metu was the other guy that signed with the Suns. I like that pickup for them. I've already mentioned the Georges Niang thing. Kyrie Irving re-signing with Dallas. The reason why I don't really want to get into it is because they still need more moves to make. What are those moves? I don't know, but we'll see what happens with them. Middleton and Brook Lopez re-signing with Milwaukee, and Jay Crowder as well. Let's not forget that. Yes, they lose Javon Carter, who I believe they should have tried to keep him as well, but it's between Brook, Chris, and Javon. You're gonna want to keep Chris and Brook, so made sense. But bringing in Jay Crowder this past season for those first round pick or those second round picks, great that you were able to bring him back. Losing Joe Ingles, I mean, it is what it is. Jay Crowder can fill that void. Now it's whatever you decide to do with these other, roles that you can fill. But I believe they can do it. I like the Chris Middleton re-sign. I think it gives Giannis more of an incentive to stay. But Brook Lopez is also getting up there in age, so we'll see what happens with there. Jakob Poeltl goes back to Toronto. 4 year, $80 million. Is he better or on par with Nikola Vucevic? I don't know. Maybe. Cam Johnson re-signing with Brooklyn. We also got Dennis Smith Jr. and Lonnie Walker to come off our bench, I guess. Maybe start. I don't know. We did lose Seth Curry. We lost Patty Mills, obviously, in a trade. We lose Yuta Watanabe, I believe a 40% 3-point shooter. Maybe like 50% from the corners, though. He was cooking from the corners. And we also lost my boy, Joe Harris, who, great pickup for Detroit. And then who knows with the whole Damian Lillard saga, will there be a trade? I'm going to get into that. Hopefully, I might even record after this just a video about Brooklyn potentially getting a trade for Damian Lillard or even Tyler Hero or Anthony Simons. I don't know, whatever they decide to do. But yeah, Cam Johnson re-signing $27 million a year. Good pickup. Joe Ingles already mentioned to the Magic. Didn't really care about that. Trey Jones with San Antonio. You kind of have to take them. Mentioned these guys. Shake Milton leaving Philly to go to Minnesota. Great pickup for Minnesota. Minnesota now has a 4-guard lineup of Conley, Edwards, Milton, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think that's great. They got a guy that when he started, he dropped 20 points per game. I mean, Shake Milton really is a good NBA player. I don't see why not. Why you wouldn't want to pick him. It's $5 million a year. Great value. Herb Jones, at first it kind of confused me why they would decline a $1.8 million option for a player like Herb Jones. I mean, you want to pay him for cheap as long as you can, but that's kind of what they did. Yes, they could have paid him $1 million this season. Then they would have had to re-sign him, and depending on how he played this upcoming season, he could have made like close to 10 to 15 million. So the fact that they got him on a 4-year, $54 million contract, that's around what, like $13 million a season, when he could have potentially demanded 15 to 20. Like, I mean, it's not that far off. But when you think about it, when you have to pay these other guys, it's a really relatively good contract for these guys. So shout out to them. Josh Richardson going back to Miami. See what happens with him there. Kevin Love as well, also going back to Miami. And I know Richardson was on Pelicans last season, but he got traded for Jimmy. Now he's playing alongside Jimmy. So shout out that. Rui Hachimura, already mentioned, going back to the Lakers. Julian Champagny goes back to San Antonio. Cam Reddish going to the Lakers. I also mentioned that already, so who cares about that? Here's where things get interesting to me. The Rockets brought in Fred VanVleet, um, Dylan Brooks, and Jeff Green, and Jacques Landale. You got a lineup now, starting lineup potentially of Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, who's their small forward? I don't even know. Cam Whitmore? Maybe. I don't know. Oh, Dylan Brooks. What am I doing? Dylan Brooks, Jabari Smith, and Alperen Şengün. And off your bench, you got, is it Amen or a Sewer? I believe it was it Amen Thompson? One of the Thompson twins, Kevin Porter Jr., Cam Whitmore potentially if they want to, start him. I mean, I think they should. He was potentially their fourth pick, and then he dropped all the way to 20. Crazy to think about. Power forward Jeff Green, center, bringing in Jacques Landale. Solid pickups. I mean, I don't think they needed to pay Dylan Brooks that much money for 4 years, but they did. And then Fred VanVleet getting $40-something million a season, more money than Kyrie, which is crazy to think about. But I mean, I guess they had to do it. It's kind of like I guess they didn't want that. They wanted to go a little bit above that first cap. Whatever. I don't know. Good pickup though, because financially speaking, it makes sense. They needed to pay people. It was like I was watching shout out the No Dunks podcast. Trey Kirby was mentioning how like the Nets did something similar back when they were rebuilding. They brought in Joan Petro, Anthony Murrow, Jordan Farmar, and the other cat, I forgot who it was. Signed them to get up to that specific threshold that you need to have as an NBA team to like not get penalized or not get fined for it. And that's exactly what the Raptors did. I mean, what the Rockets did. Just would have been nice if they would have gotten Fred VanVleet for just 2 years, a third year not guaranteed, but it is guaranteed. Same thing with Dylan. It should have just been 2 years, not 4 years, $80 million. But I digress. Dennis Schroeder leaving Los Angeles to go to Toronto will be that replacement for Fred VanVleet. Makes sense, I guess. O'Shea Brissett leaves Indiana, which made sense. I mean, they got Obi Toppin. He goes to Boston. It's a solid pickup, and it looks more inevitable that Grant Williams will not be rejoining them. I think I mentioned Seth Curry leaving the Nets. I didn't say what team. He's going back to Dallas, where he had some of the best seasons of his career, I would say. Reuniting back with Kyrie, from his Duke days to his Nets days and now to the Dallas days. So shout out that. This one, man, I love Derrick Rose going to the Memphis, being that mentor like they need. I mean, they have Marcus Smart, who also was traded. I like that pickup for them. I already mentioned Tyrese Halliburton and Desmond Bane getting paid all that money, $207 million contract extension. I mean, shout out Desmond Bane. A lot of people are saying that he's overpaid, but a player that plays defense, shoots lights out, can play make if he needs to, and has been somewhat the most reliable player besides Jaren Jackson in Memphis. I mean, you kind of have to do it, and for a small market team, makes sense why they got to do that. And I mentioned the Max Strus signing. I mentioned the Jackson Hayes signing, Dennis Smith Jr. signing, Sasha Vezenkov going to Sacramento. I like it. 3-year, $20 million deal. One of the best shooters in the Euro League. He was the MVP as well, so made sense why he got a little bit more than most of these rookies do. But I like the pickup for them. To be honest, that Chris Duarte deal is looking just more of like, he's like that 11th man, like the next guy up, because Sasha Vezenkov, I think, is going to get those minutes. So shout out him. Vasily Micic, I don't know who that is. Goes to Thunder, so I'm not really going to talk about it. This Thomas Bryant signing, look, when he was in LA and AD was out, he was cooking, right? Then he gets upset. AD comes back because, now that AD's back, he doesn't get the same minutes, doesn't get the same amount of touches, gets traded to Denver, doesn't do much in Denver, and now we are where we are. But going to Miami, great pickup. They needed another backup big. Cody Zeller wasn't cutting it. And Thomas Bryant was there watching Nikola Jokic cook them, right? Or cook Miami. So Thomas Bryant might know a little something or two, right? So good pickup for them. D'Lo going back to the Lakers. I mentioned that. Brook Lopez resigned with the Bucks. Who cares? Patrick Beverley. Who cares? Austin Reeves. I don't really care. I mean, LaMelo Ball get that extension. Mo Wagner going back to Orlando. Trade piece, I guess. Dwight Powell re-signing with the Mavericks. He's been a Maverick basically his whole career. He was only in Boston for like half a season when he got traded for Rondo. So shout out Dwight Powell. Ty Jerome going to Cleveland. Solid pickup. Nice little backup to the backup. I don't see why he can't potentially take over Ricky Rubio's minutes. Jack Landry, I already said it. Russell Westbrook going back to the Clippers on a $4 million contract each season, which is a total of $8 million. So good pick up, I guess. I don't know who Jack White is. Whatever. He's going to the Thunder. Jalen McDaniels going to the Raptors. Man, the Raptors just love picking up wings. Whatever. I don't get that one. Sandro Mamukelashvili resigns with this. Oh, that's that. The guy that was on the Bucks that one season. This pickup I love. Dante DiVincenzo going to New York, bringing that Villanova Wildcats back to it. Who I hate because they beat my North Carolina team once upon a time. But great pickup for the team. I mean, I do get it. They have a surplus of guards and Jalen, Emmanuel, Dante, and Quentin, and Fournier. But Fournier clearly doesn't get minutes. So those 5 guys right there, I mean, those 4 guys right there, your backcourt, right? And if you want to play DiVincenzo alongside with his old school Villanova Wildcats players and Hart and Brunson, you can do it. It's positionless type league now, and DiVincenzo being 6'4", Hart being 6'5", but Hart who plays with a lot of heart, no pun intended. It's a solid pickup. DiVincenzo is a 3-point shooter, solid 3-point shooter, and that's what they lacked in New York, especially in that playoff series against Miami. So I like the pickup. And I already mentioned the Jeff Green thing. Alex Len re-signing with Sacramento. Sacramento has to find somebody better, to be honest. Dante Exum going to Dallas really surprised me. I just forgot about him being a player, and then he goes back. And then Sacramento also goes and re-signs Domantas Sabonis on a bigger contract because he, somewhat he deserved it. I mean, did play like trash in playoffs, but his hand was broken. So Clarkson re-signs with what's their face with Utah. And Miles Bridges is back in the NBA after that whole assault thing that he had with his baby's mama. I don't care about him. Eric Gordon already said. Cody Zeller going to the Pelicans. Why? Lonnie Walker. Justin Holiday with the Nuggets. Like that pickup. They got to bring up as many people as they need. Corey Joseph going to the Warriors. I felt like he should have gone to Denver instead of bringing back Reggie Jackson. They could have spent more money on somewhere else, but whatever. He's going over there to be the backup to the backup. Delano Banton, like I mentioned. Anthony Edwards getting that extension. Torrey Craig leaving the Phoenix Suns, going to the Chicago Bulls. Mason Plumlee, who I believe that the Nuggets should have picked up, but they didn't, goes back to the Clippers. And then Robin Lopez off to the Bucks. So with that being said, who is the top players available? I mean, we still have Christian Wood. If you think about it, technically Harden is, but I mean, he's not because he's already on his team. So yeah, I mean, there's really not many players that you can think. I mean, Kelly Oubre is still on the board. Is he going to get a minimum contract? I don't know. I don't think so. I think he's too good to be getting a minimum. But I also don't know what to expect from what's next. Because I think everything is going to go down to whatever happens with Dame, whatever happens with Harden. But really, Dame. Dame is like the Kevin Durant of last season. Wherever they decide to trade him, wherever he decides to go, whatever the case may be, in the end, it's going to affect all other 29 NBA teams, all 28 other teams. Because he has that domino effect. I mean, whatever team he joins, they're potentially automatically going to be a contender, especially if he goes to Miami. Miami just made it to the finals with Gabe Vincent and Max Strus, 2 key guys who did leave Miami, but you get rid of them to be able to get Dame. I mean, if you trade away Tyler Hero, who wasn't even a part of your rotation in the playoffs, basically, because he got hurt, and you still managed to pull it off without him, imagine the wonders that you will be able to do with picking up a bunch of other random players that you find in a local YMCA gym, and Damian Lillard alongside Butler and Bam. I don't see why they can't compete again this upcoming season, be a real threat. And who knows, maybe Brooklyn is that third team to facilitate that deal. It's just, apparently Portland wants a superstar caliber player. They're not going to get that. They already have that in Scoot Henderson. He's superstar potential. Just develop him and don't mess it up. And, you have Shaedon Sharpe alongside him. I mean, you have a solid team. I don't see why you can't do it, right? So we'll see what happens. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. And I'll be recording more videos from now on. Maybe, I don't know. But peace.